Bull Halsey left the landings on Leyte covered only by a handful of escort carriers and destroyers. Moreover, Halsey did not even inform Kincaid that the Third Fleet was not covering the strait. Rear Admiral Jesse B. Oldendorf, with 6 old and slow battleships, 5 of which had been sunk or damaged at Pearl Harbor, 4 heavy and 4 light cruisers, and 26 destroyers, was charged with the task of stopping the Japanese. In addition, 39 expendable PT boats were deployed in the shadows of the islands off the southern entrance to the strait. Throughout the day, Nishimura's southern force had steamed on through sporadic air attacks, which had only hit the Fuso, wiping out her seaplanes. Passing between Negros and Mindanao, by nightfall he was less than 150 miles from the strait. So close was he to his objective that Nishimura raced on through the dark without waiting or radioing Admiral Shima's heavy cruisers, who were left to catch him from 50 miles astern. The night hung thick, black, and moonless over a glassy calm. At 10:36, one of the PT boats, PT-131, made the first contact with the advancing Japanese ships. Over more than 3.5 hours, the PT boats made repeated attacks on Nishimura's force, but without making any torpedo hits. The Japanese radar sets were cluttered by the multiple echoes from the nearby islands and failed to pick up the 2 lines of American destroyers which were guarding the Surigao Strait. Turbines racing, the first group dashed within torpedo range of the enemy battleships without being sighted. As Nishimura's ships entered Surigao Strait, they came under devastating torpedo attack from American destroyers lined up on both sides of their line of advance. The first 2 flanking attacks failed. It was not until the 24th Division came charging in to meet the Japanese battle line head-on that well-aimed torpedoes began hitting targets. The 3 leading Japanese destroyers were hit, and 1 sunk. Then, just past 2 a.m., the Fuso was slammed by 2 torpedoes that set her ablaze. With terrifying suddenness, her magazines exploded, cutting her in half. 3 of the 24th's 4 destroyers were also hit. Another torpedo cut the Yamashiro's speed down to 5 knots. Still, Nishimura stumbled on. The American destroyer attacks were so successful that when the Japanese force came within range of the battleships and cruisers disposed across the strait, all it consisted of was the battleship Yamashiro, 1 heavy cruiser, and 1 destroyer. The overwhelming gunfire of the Allied ships sank the Yamashiro and reduced the cruiser Mogami to a blazing wreck. The destroyer, the Shigure, miraculously survived. The rear of the southern force, the 2nd Striking Force, commanded by Vice Admiral Shima, had approached Surigao Strait about 40 miles astern of Nishimura. It too came under attack from the PT boats, and one of these hit the light cruiser Abukuma with a torpedo. This crippled her and caused her to fall out of formation. Shima next encountered remnants of Nishimura's force, including what he took to be the burning Fuso and Yamashiro, but what were in fact the broken halves of the torpedoed Fuso. Shima, much discouraged, decided to withdraw. Oldendorf's force and the PT boats then harried the retreating Japanese. The last shots of the Surigao Strait battle were fired at 7:21 a.m. when U.S. cruisers and destroyers sank the destroyer Asagumo, which had been torpedoed and damaged earlier in the battle. At 7:23 a.m., Oldendorf recalled his light forces from the pursuit. Less than 10 minutes later, he received the astounding report that the 7th Fleet's escort carriers had been surprised by the Japanese main force off Samar and were under heavy attack. This report meant that the invasion shipping in Leyte Gulf, and the entire Leyte operation itself, was now in great danger.